Welcome to 2 p.m. with the Trigger, streaming live once again, helping you shine on camera, shine on stage, elevate you and your brand authority. Do you do interviews? Are you a podcaster or a streaming talk show host like I am? Do you interview, and after a while it gets a little bit boring asking the same questions over and over again? Today we're going to help you elevate your interview skills by learning how to ask better, more provocative questions that actually take your interviews deeper. And you get more authentic, more real conversations out of your interview guests. Stick around. It's going to be a great conversation here today because I do thousands of interviews. I have interviewed people for years and years and years, and I love a great conversation. But after 32 years of interviewing people, it gets a little bit tiring doing the same questions over and over again. In fact, a lot of time, that's why I coach people, let them know that we're going to use some of your questions that you provide in the advanced screening. But a lot of it is off the top of my head. A lot of it is in the moment, figuring out which direction we're going to take the interview. And there are times I intentionally will drop in a provocative question that I pre-plan to see if we can take the conversation deeper. One of the all-time greats of this was a journalist, interviewer, talk show man, James Lipton. And he was on the Inside the Actor Studio, probably best known for that. But he had ending questions that he would always pull out. The actors, the guests knew variations of these questions, but they were asked always at the end to wrap up every show, and it was rapid fire. And he would do this to catch him off guard and see what they were going to come up with. Now, obviously, they knew the questions were coming because he's been doing the show for a long time. But then it also comes to, what are they really going to say in the moment after an hour interview with him in front of a live studio audience? Some of his questions were like this: what's your favorite word? And there were always great answers for that. Let me tell you, what's your least favorite word? What turns you on? What turns you off? What sound or noise do you love? What sound or noise do you hate? These are just some of his questions that could probe a little bit deeper, get to know the deeper personality of this celebrity guest. Like, what profession other than the one that you're in now would you attempt to have done? Or what profession would you rather not do? And he always wrapped up. I think he did this question 100% of the time. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates? Now, people gave funny answers, serious answers. It was a whole spectrum, but you got a little bit deeper inside the personality and the heart of the guest. I'm going to share 3 that you can use to help maybe elevate some of your conversations as you have your interviews and your discussions, because you don't want it to be the same predictable pattern. Even the guests on your show do not want the same predictable interviews over and over again. And they want to be challenged. They want to go deeper. A lot of time they just don't know how to tell you, I'm tired of the same old interview. When they're a brand new book coming out, authors get asked the same set of questions because they want to market the book. After a while, that gets tiring. Actors talking about a new film, the same set of questions. It's a standard media trick that we all use to get the best content out the fastest. But what if you want to go deeper? What if you want to get to the real heart of a person? Why don't you try it with this one? What is a commonly held belief that you strongly disagree with, and why? See, you don't just ask the question. You want to know why they think what they think. Why is that so important? This question can lead to a debates between host and guest, or if you have multiple guests at one time, throw it out there. Let them challenge each other. Have them interact and break that glass where it's a little bit deeper. It also will give you more insightful perspective because they will give standard answers. They will give safe answers. But listen to the question again. What is a commonly held belief that you strongly disagree with? So they're going to think from him. Think of all the different strong beliefs out there, commonly held ones by people. It could be political. It could be faith-based. It could be financial, family rearing. There's a whole plethora of ways they could go with that question. But you have to make sure you hang on the second part of the question is, and why? You can't just tell me why you disagree with the belief and then just move on to another question. And I'm telling you, a lot of interview hosts do that. They ask a question, they get a quick answer, and they move on. What you want to do if you go deeper with the more personal side is you want to go back in with that and why. And don't be afraid after they give the answer to say, okay, that was kind of safe, but and why don't you agree? Poke them a little bit more, see if you can go a little bit deeper, have a little fun with this, because that's how you get great, deep interviews and great conversations. And usually they'll play along. They actually like this. Here's another one to try on your guests when they come on your show. Have you ever had a moment when you question your core values or beliefs? Ooh, now you're going to get into their core values and beliefs. So you could set that up with an earlier point in one of your other questions, talking about core values, beliefs. You could come back around to that again later on in the interview and say, hey, by the way, we talked about this earlier. Here's what you said about your core value and beliefs, but have you ever questioned them? And then part two of the question, again, part two is always important, but you ask them one question at a time. This is a big tip here. If you're new to interviews, often you give a long question. Often you answer the question for the guest, so they don't need to answer it, or you ask a yes or no question, or you ask two questions back to back. Don't do any of those things. Learn to ask one question at a time and have the follow-up ready to probe deeper. So part two of that question, the question once again, have you ever had a moment when you question your core values or beliefs? And they'll say, yes, no, maybe, kind of, sort of. Then you dig a little bit deeper. You go back and say, what triggered the self-reflection? And what did you discover? Oh, wow. Now we're going really deep. Now we're getting into they had a conflicting moment of faith and belief and values. Then they finally reveal, okay, what triggered it was. A car accident, a gun shooting, a political mishap in our world, a war, whatever that is. And this is a three-part question because you're going to say, and what did you discover? As they reflected on that belief, as they reflected, now you're getting really into their heart, their soul, their mind. And they probably weren't prepared to go that deep on the three-tier question. But once they're in it, it opens up a whole lot more. Don't just settle for the standard questions. Don't just get in and out of an interview. Try to go for the heart. And again, more and more, as we've been talking about here on Rocks the Stage and on 2 p.m. Lives, people are looking for the personal side. We want to get more intimate with our celebrities, our news journalists, our media people, the authors, the speakers. They're looking to get to know them deeper. As a host, as an interviewer, you provide the gateway to get inside and go deeper and deeper. Let me give you one more here. All right? Try this one's on your side. What's the role of privilege in your life? You might be interviewing a celebrity, an actor, a politician, an author that's achieved great results. Maybe a mayor of a major metropolitan city. What's the role of privilege in your life, and how do you use it to advocate for others or make the world a better place? Again, you could ask it as one long question, or you could break it up. Just hang on that first part. What's the role of privilege in your life? Now, some people will push back on that. That's a great one to get a little pushback. I don't have a privileged life. I work hard for what I get, Trigger. But when you come back around, you talk about a little bit more, and then you go, okay, now how do you advocate? How do you leverage this privilege that you have, these opportunities you have to make the world a better place? Well, then they're going to go into their nonprofit agencies. They're going to go into their philanthropy. They're going to talk about the things they've done in the past, new projects coming up. You open up a whole new area to them to, again, show more of themselves. Encourage this introspective conversations. Allow them, once again, to stop and ponder, reflect, and then share. Some of the best interviews I've seen have been where the guest was starting to give an answer, and they stop and go, wait, let me rethink that for a second. And you go way deeper because they realize this is a chance to be real honest. It's a chance to share something maybe they've never, ever shared before on camera, on stage. And they're dying for someone to ask the question. I found that they vary too. I've done interviews where people have literally said, no one's asked me that ever. Thank you. Now, that goes to another media tip I'll give you here today as a bonus is do your research on the people you interview, not just the standard research. Look for their hobbies. Look for what they invest in. Look at where they spend their casual time. Look at where they go to better the world. And ask questions about their sideline stuff, not just the main thrust of who they are, what they do, and the standard package. Ask them, why are they a big dog lover, a big animal lover? Why do they have dogs and then they sell them, and dogs and they sell them? Because they have a desire to help animals. Find out more about that story. Figure out your way to ask these thought-provoking questions. See, when asking provocative questions, you're going to stir things up a little bit. You're going to break the standard mold. It will ensure that you create a safe, respectful environment for your guests when you do that. And that starts back in the green room, as we've talked about. We have other videos and other shows we've talked about the importance of setting up that safe, warm environment. They can be free. You need to set that up before you turn on the camera or turn the mic. So when you ask these deeper, thought-provoking questions, they're going to go with you. And if they differ on any of the opinions, this is a great way to get the chat box rolling. It's a great way to open up the dialogue between the audience and the guests, between the panel and one another. And it's important, it's imperative to foster a meaningful and constructive discussion rather than just a debate, rather than just another answering question in a 10-minute interview and you're done. It's interesting sometimes when you watch talk shows and you watch them and you realize they've gone off script. What happens to the host, what happens to the interview is they actually light up. They're excited to see about where this new conversation is going to go. The guest often leans in a little bit more and says, you know what? I didn't expect this today, but this is great. How are you going to do that? How are you going to elevate yourself? How are you going to raise the way that you interview on podcasts, streaming TV shows, radio, television? Take some time and think about those thought-provoking, more deeper personal questions. I've got a list of them. If you want to get that list, if you want to get a list that will help you, just drop me a line, rich@richbontrager.net. That's rich@richbontrager.net. I will give you 10 thought-provoking questions that will take your conversation in many different exciting directions. By the way, speaking about interviews, coming up tomorrow night, we do have How to Rock the Stage show Wednesday night, November 1st, and we are going to have a great show talking about confidence. Hit the QR code. That will take you to the landing page that's built into our website for Rock the Stage show. We have past shows already up there, already loaded for you to watch and view. And coming up tomorrow night, D.W. Starr will be my guest, entertainer, performer, international speaker, and he is a confidence booster. He helps you actually gain confidence and reach your dreams and reach your goals, because we all have them. We have that story in our head, but we're not sure how big and how bold we can go. Join us for a great conversation, and he's going to share some of his STAR method, the ways that he helps people remember to reach higher, go bigger, and have a greater life. Hey, that's going to do it for today. I'm the Trigger, Rich Bontrager. We'll be back here tomorrow for 2 p.m. with the Trigger, asking more thought-provoking questions and helping you shine on camera, shine on stage, elevate you and your brand authority. We'll see you tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern Time with the Trigger.